from, um, given their history and their legacy of faith in that area, in Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, North Africa, Morocco. There's never been a film in their heart languages about their history, about the stuff that happened there in their own courtyards. It's amazing to be able to produce something that's going to be in Berber, that'll be in Arabic, that will be ultimately the end goal for all of us. We have enough content in English. We do a lot of content in English. Our main goal is to get content in every other language in the world. So we focus primarily in areas that have no content, no faith-based content for the rest of the world. We still do English. The film that we did here was the first language is in English, but primarily what we do is other languages through the world. So wanted to give just a quick talk. How many of you are sound individuals in the room? You got a background in audio?
I've mixed before.
You've mixed before? Okay. Yep. So the rest of you, maybe we could do a quick overview of audio production, if that would be helpful. That's what I prepared for. If it's not helpful, then I'm sorry. You can go to dinner early. It's going great. So one of the things that I don't know who wrote this quote or said this quote, but film without audio is simply surveillance. It's on the wall at IMM. I don't know where it originated from, but it's the truth. Audio, music, dialogue carries the story. Film, Danny Boyle said this, film conveys information while audio conveys emotion. We've all felt that, right? You felt in Jaws the dun dun. It creates something in you. The opening, it's a Christian film festival. I'm a pastor. I can talk about Apocalypse Now. Maybe not. The opening scene of Apocalypse Now, where the helicopters are spinning around the soldier's head. It teaches you how to listen to that movie. It's an amazing piece. But film conveys information while audio conveys emotion. And I do have a quote. That was from Danny Boyle. I know who said it. So, and that's probably going to be small for you to read, but just a few things as filmmakers, as you're producing content. Maybe you have an audio department. Maybe you have a team of individuals that is mixing your production. We want to make life easy for these individuals, and we've all heard content and films that have broken all of these rules. So number one, your audio chain is only as strong as your weakest link. So what that means is you have a novice boom operator. Your audio is only going to be good as that novice boom operator that you have. You have poor equipment. That's something as a missions organization we feel all the time. We have we will be on a shoot. The last people to use our gear may have broken a cable. We don't know that until we're right in the middle of the chaos of a film shoot. But your audio is only as strong as its weakest link. So as you are all the way down to your mix engineer. If you do not have the right mix engineer, that is your audio is only as strong as the weakest link. This is something to just remember as far as when you are on location, you're shooting on location. Low frequency sounds, because of their larger physical size, tend to interact with the surrounding environment in more perceptible ways than high frequency sounds do. So you have also heard that in this room today. The movie that was playing in the sanctuary had some really, really strong low-end information that's playing 3 rooms away. We felt it in this room. When you're on location, you're shooting on location, you have a truck drive by that's on your take. You've got a train that happens 8 miles away. You're hearing the rumble from the microphones from the trains that are miles away. So even as you're location scouting, these are important information to have with you before you ever say action on your camera. Is to know where are you in the world? What is going on? What is going on even down the street? I grew up in a town. The highway for our town was about 2 blocks away in my backyard. Constantly, it is the sound of my childhood is the rumble of a 18-wheel tractor trailer. That's the sound of my childhood. You can on cool days, you can hear the sound of the highway for miles and miles away. The sound of a train for miles and miles away. The sound of a factory. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. It's an industrial part of America. The sounds of factories are. All of these things come into play when you're trying to record audio when you're on location. That can be said about if you're shooting in a kitchen, the sound of a refrigerator, things that you don't really think about. In this room right now, if I'm quiet, which I have a hard time being, but if I'm quiet, you'll hear the sound. Let me do that real quick. I'm not hearing anything from the sanctuary.
The light.
I'm hearing lights. I'm hearing interference from the speakers. All of that stuff contributes to the overall noise floor of your production. There are tools that we have now that we didn't have whenever I started. When I started editing years ago, there are tools that we can fix some of these things. We can talk about in a minute. But it's. If I hear somebody say, we'll fix it in post one more time.
Slap them.
I just want to slap kick somebody. So that's one of the, we can fix it in post. It can be done.
Just take a year or
Do
2.
you want to do that? Is really the other question. So that brings me to point number 3. Fix as many sound issues, in quotes, as possible before shooting. So, you're shooting in a kitchen. What are some of the things that you could do before you roll camera?
Unplug the refrigerator.
How about you unplug the refrigerator?
Air conditioner.
Turn off the air conditioning. Help your sound guys out. These are important things. If you record poor quality sound, it will always be poor quality. Don't think that you'll be able to fix it in post. Sometimes you can fix it in post. Sometimes you cannot. That's where ADR comes in. That's great. That's awesome. Sometimes you can fix it in post. Other times you can't. So just be cautious. All that to say, so let's talk about microphones just a little bit. Number 1 rule of microphones: there are no rules. So I don't know, this is like one of those urban legends, I think, but Andre Crouch, y'all heard of Andre Crouch? I have heard Andre Crouch, famous gospel singer. He's passed away now, God bless him. Everything that he recorded was on an SM58, an $89 microphone. In all of his career, that was the microphone that sounded the best for his voice. So as you are, Jerry, have you heard that story? Yeah. So there are no rules. Typically, whenever when I know we're talking about film, but typically when you are going into the studio recording your voice, you want a high quality microphone. Somebody wants a Neumann U87, really expensive mic. No, he wanted a $89 SM58 microphone. So Rule number 2, it always goes back to the fact that your sound quality is no better than your weakest link. Always use the good rule. A good performance plus a good instrument, your dialogue, your whatever is being captured upon that instrument, plus a good mic, plus good placement will generally equal a good sound. So your boom operators, if you have tested your equipment, you've got your cables are working correctly, you have talent on set that is giving you the best performance, you are typically going to get a good sound from that. That's the SM58 that I was just talking about. That's the U87 that I was just talking about. Microphones, they come in all shapes and sizes. There are, and again, there are no rules to this. We've even got a CD up there. It's great. There are no rules. You use the microphone that fits your application the best. So we talk about form factor for microphones. Personal mics, these are typically what I see on film sets. Some type of a lapel microphone. And we can talk about how to get the best sound out of those. At IMM, we use that very microphone. Encapsulated, it is worn somewhere on the actor's body, and we capture audio that way. Other personal mics, your pastor might be wearing one of those. It's a Countryman E6. We'll kind of move through that. These are not really typically used in a film set, so handheld microphones such as the SM58 and the Beta 87, you don't use those very often. You don't use these very often. The SM57, let's just keep moving through. What you do use are things like these. These are shotgun microphones. Typically speaking, this is what your boom operator is going to have in his arsenal. They are highly directional, so whatever you point them at is what is going to be picked up. Great for off-axis cancellation. What that means is, as they are pointed at your subject or at your actor, that is what they are going to pick up. Things to the sides, not captured as much. Great for film sets. Anywhere directional audio is needed. One of the things that we do at IMM, and we're gonna we'll
That's why
talk
you hire
about
a sound guy.
we'll talk about boundary mics too. So boundary microphones are another. So two things that we use. Well, three things that we use. Sometimes we will use a boundary microphone. If we are in a situation where we are in the studio, we need to capture a number of different actors at one time. We don't have enough lapel microphones for those actors. We will use a shotgun mic on a boom, multiple shotgun mics on booms, or we will use boundary microphones placed throughout. Sometimes I call them plant microphones. They are they're existing inside of a plant. Really technical term, right? All of those tools use a combination of those tools to create your sound. Mic classification. So another way that we classify microphones is with polar pattern. Looks something like this. I love donuts.
Amen.
I thought that would get more of a reaction than what it did, but okay, it's all right.
I was writing amen.
That's cool. All right. Here we go.
Amen. Woo!
That's great.
Donuts.
Yay.
Yay.
So give the pastor an amen. It's awesome. So cardioid mics. Typically not used on a film set, typically, but they can be. I said number one rule: there are no rules. You can use a mic. Where I've seen a cardioid mic used is in a actual on-screen performance. You have a singer on screen. What's a great thing to give them is a cardioid microphone. Anywhere where you can actually see the microphone. So cardioid, it's shaped like a heart. Some of my students at the University of Valley Forge think that that looks like something else,
Mickey Mouse.
which makes this next one really awkward. This is this is the hypercardioid. It is so the polar pattern. How the polar
Stick with
pattern
donuts,
works.
guys. Come on.
What's that?
I said let's stick with donuts, guys. Come on.
Donuts is awesome. So at the very top of that circle, that is the point where the microphone is the most effective. Off to the sides and to the rear of that mic, the sound is rejected to a certain degree. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, what's the radius on that? So, like, that thing is going to be expanded beyond the actual unit,
So,
like
so what
a
this
foot.
is telling me, as an audio engineer, when I look at this polar pattern, anything from the rear is being rejected as sound is coming into that microphone. Anything from behind that source is being rejected. Something like an omnidirectional microphone, what does that mean? It means that it picks up everything. So things like boundary microphones, PZM microphones.
Interesting.
Those will, you set them in a room and they pick up everything around. What these are not great for are things where if you need to only pick up a certain source, probably don't want to use an omnidirectional microphone.
Yeah.
It's picking everything up around it. If you need to pick up multiple people, it's great.
It's also picking up the refrigerator.
It's also
And the
picking up
lights.
everything in the room. Exactly. So another popular pattern is a figure 8 pattern. What does this do? What do you think?
For two dialogue
For two
conversation.
people, right? So you could put that in between two performers. It could totally work. So most typically, what we see on a film set is something like a directional shotgun type microphone. So this polar pattern, it's picking up whatever you're pointing at it, right? And it's also it's picking up some of the side information that's going to give you some of the overall room sound of the mic. But obviously things to the sides are being rejected for the most part. It's not as sensitive on the sides. Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, is there technology out there? So I think it was the Omni, the one two before that, to be able to use that as like a negative to cancel out like any ambient noise.
Yes. I'll show you that in a second. So one of the tools, that's a great question. We could dive into that next if we want to do that. One of the tools that I use is it's software called, it's made by iZotope. I don't know if you've heard that word before, that company name. RX is what they make. So mentioned early on, so everything that I am mixing for the most part has been recorded by an amateur. They're not professionals in any way. They are they've come in to volunteer to shoot a picture. Easiest thing to get them on is a boom. So the quality varies from what I receive as an engineer. One of the things that has saved my life is iZotope. It allows me to clean up any ambient audio. It allows me to match ambient sounds. It allows me to match EQs across. So we'll dive into that second question.
I have two questions. One is, are there attachments to the microphone that are interchangeable where you can change those back and forth, or do you actually have to have a whole separate expensive device for each microphone?
Some mics will have a switch that you can switch them different polar patterns.
Okay.
The U87, one of the higher end microphones, will do all of these patterns except for the directional pattern. So it'll do omnidirectional, it'll do figure eight, it'll capture multiple different polar patterns with the mic.
And then my other question is, like, I think you touched on this, but let's say somebody is inexperienced, but you just tell them keep the boom out of the shot and hold it over the actors, point the shotgun at the performer we want on dialogue. Is how risky is it, or like how skilled do you have to be a boom operator? You know what I mean? Like, is there some finesse that it takes, or can anybody do it?
He said 5-minute lesson. And
Yeah,
So typically what happens, we get a 5-minute lesson,
yeah,
and this is how you hold a boom. It's one of those entry-level things
okay,
in my world. It
Makes
so
sense.
If there is anybody from Hollywood watching this right now, I
They're-
apologize in advance. I'm speaking in general terms. It's okay.
Hollywood is like the divas or the
So-
Pharisees
Okay, so-
of filmmaking.
So that aside, what I
Oh,
do
I don't
with
wanna be
our
on
volunteers, and in my world, it is, I don't want to contradict everything that I just said up to this point either. It is absolutely vital. It is absolutely key to capture great dialogue on set. Key. It can also be the most forgiving thing if you've got the right engineer on the back end. So
In
when I
post?
say we can fix it in post. Typically, we can fix it somewhat in post. Sometimes it's not possible. For the most part, you can. Does that answer your question? Did I even touch on your question about is it so yeah? Anybody can be trained.
Anybody can. It's not that difficult.
It is not that difficult.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we
You just need the
But it'd
equipment.
be good to use someone that knows how to do it.
oh, for
Of course,
Anytime. So next week, we have a shoot happening in Spain that I am not able to fly over for. So we have a very inexperienced audio crew that will be a part of that shoot.
Mm.
There is training that I will do from here for these individuals to capture what I need. So at the end of the day, it comes back to my desk, and I have to fix it. So being able to train them up front on how to capture good audio on set is absolutely key. But it can be done. Anybody can do it. Yeah, anybody can do it. Any other? Maybe we can just have a Q&A time. I don't know. Is there any other comments about that?
I just had something on the Isotope RX. That is software.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You want to see it?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's post-production software?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was, what is that, U87? What's that make? Neumann, would you say?
Neumann, and it's typically not used on a film set. It's
Okay.
it's a $4,000 microphone.
That's for singing. More,
Typically used for vocalists. So in the last session, it was kind of
It's
fun.
an expensive microphone.
We actually did do a series of 4 stories on the women in the line of Jesus. So one of those was Tamar, which was this particular piece. Tamar pretended to be a prostitute, got a whole deal. Interesting mic technique. We'll
Is that a cartoon?
No, so designed to be more in the
The colors are popping.
yeah, it's designed to be cartoony.
Oh, it's real people though?
Those are real individuals.
Wow.
Right, a little bit of this.
Oh, it is cartoony.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so this is all shot in Spanish.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Isotope. What was that?
They spoke Spanish back then?
Absolutely, yes.
Jesus.
So this was a few years ago. So I'm using a older version of Isotope here on the session. Let's pull up one of the.
Looks pretty crazy.
Well, this is Pro Tools. So Isotope is also available in whatever your video editor is. So if you use Final Cut, you use Premiere, Media Composer, you can use Isotope.
Avid.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. So we'll just open up the full version. Well, this is RX4. So this is a few. Let's pull this up. Forgive me, guys. I'm sorry.
So you edit with Pro Tools and Isotope?
What's that?
You edit with Pro Tools as well
I
as
edit with
Isotope?
Isotope engaged within Pro Tools.
Okay.
So here's RX7. Typical waveform. The blue is your
Voice?
the main content of whatever that waveform is. So this just happens to be a spoken word dialogue thing I was doing yesterday. I don't have output engaged.
Do you want the
So
mic?
It's just spoken word. The yellow is the intensity of the information. So the yellow
We need
and the
his
orange
sound.
is how loud that particular piece of information is. Anywhere where you see any of these dark areas, there's nothing happening on that track. What Isotope allows you to do is clean out any of the background noise to a certain degree without creating any, you've all heard like the robotic kind of artifacting crazy stuff that goes on whenever you try to clean and denoise things. Isotope does a great job of eliminating the commercial, but this is absolutely a tool that I use every day.
Now, are you going through and removing like the orange sections of that?
No, I'll show you.
I'm sorry. I mean,
No, let's do it.
I don't mean to distract you.
Not at all. This is great. Hopefully this is helpful for anybody else. If
Sure.
it's not, then whatever.
You want to,
Yeah, we can. That's not gonna help you.
helps a little bit.
All right, so let's just do this. I'll show you. Oh. I'll leave you. Come on back. Come on back. There we go. Okay, so got a fuxy table. All right, so here we have just standard waveforms information here. I can go through.
Alan Griffin was born to an Air Force Master Sergeant father and an Army Lieutenant mother. He has known tough love and strict discipline.
All right, so this was recorded in our studio next door. So there's not a lot of noise
It's gotta be clean.
that's happening on the track itself. It was recorded with a studio microphone. If there was, there are built-in tools within RX7 that you can you can clean up basically anything on that track. There's a voice denoiser, you can optimize that for dialogue or music. It's got an adaptive mode, so it automatically decides what is noise and what is not. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. There's for that content. There are, and I encourage you to look this up on your own. One of the huge things that we do, if we are using any kind of ADR, any kind of dialogue replacement, I can go through, I can match the ambient sounds that are on set with the ADR studio voices. There's an ambience match tool, so if I hit learn here, it'll go through and learn the ambient tones that are happening, that are being captured on those microphones, and then I can apply that at the end of the day, just like I would room tone back in the day. So if you're making films and you don't have a tool, and even if you do have a tool like Isotope, always capture room tone. Room tone a lot. So you're editing your picture. You've got a piece of silence in your timeline, in your video timeline. You've got dialogue, you've got a cut, and you've got space. That space is jarring. Even though there's no audio content, you would think, okay, it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. It's one of those things that will subconsciously jerk you out of the picture. So always capture room tones. You can replace that silence with whatever was happening on that day on set. With Isotope, I can sort of do that in post. So in areas that I don't have room tone, if we were to shoot something on the field outside, there are birds, there are airplanes flying over, there are cars. All of these things make up the ambient sounds that you hear on your picture. It'd be really important to capture about 30 seconds at least of room tone that you can come back in and come back in and replace those silent pieces of dialogue. So I'm chasing rabbits, which tends to be what I do. But that's one of the things that is absolutely vital. Yeah, breath control I use all the time. You can take out all of the heavy.
Wow.
In Tamar, you kind of needed that. That was a bad joke. You wanted the breath control in some of those areas. Yeah, lots of great stuff here. Declipping, declicking, decrackle. We use a lot of wireless microphones on set, which is not something that you typically want to do. It's what we do. Not the best option, but it works for us. Wireless mics, and you just heard it as I'm walking in and out of the sound field. There's interference that happens. That interference is captured on your picture. So how do you get rid of that? There's a tool that we can use called declick that will take out some of those.
Wireless mics, no matter how like expensive or nice the equipment is, are you still gonna get feedback and crackling sometimes? Or
Yeah.
okay, even on the most expensive ones.
You're operating over airwaves, and it's sketchy at best.
When are those typically used? Is it like just because like there's airplanes going by and you
If I
have
need
to, or
capture-
why would you?
If I need to capture close-up audio, close-up soft-spoken
Whispering
dialogue,
stuff. Okay.
I'm going to use a wireless somewhere attached to that performer's person. Just typically what I will do.
Do you ever run both just in case? Like,
Always run
oh,
both.
okay, okay.
And that's one of my next things. Your camera, if you're shooting, your camera may have two inputs possibly. For the pictures that I work on, two microphones are never going to cut it. I'll have sometimes eight different actors on set, all giving some sort of dialogue at all times. Shotgun works great, but I also want to have the ability to capture those other 8 microphones that I have around the room. So using a two-party system that you can separate the dialogue in a mixer that is then sent to a camera is always good.
So it's auto synced, or are you thinking in post?
We sync
Like
in
it-
post.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought you meant it sent it to the camera, so your picture
So
and
it gives you a reference file, but it doesn't. I want to have all of those individual microphones from that field recorder.
oh, so you have one synced up and then the rest you sync up. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So we use that from the mixer to the camera. That is our sync information. So that what is coming from the camera, I can then in post tell my sync operator this is what is going where.
With the
That lays it
slate
out.
spike, is that what you guys use
Yeah.
still? Okay. And then are you the only one plugged in and like monitoring the audio, or do you usually have like the script soup or like the director listening in
The
as well?
director is almost always listening
Okay.
to what I hear.
So they have an earpiece into your, okay.
Yeah. They've got a aux out of my whatever mixer.
So you're next to the director physically?
It doesn't have to.
Are you connected? Oh, it's wireless?
No, it's
You-
not wired. So as long as my cable is, I can.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
little leash. Just kidding.
Always give your sound guy a leash. It's like filmmaking 101. Give your sound guy a leash.
Yeah.
How was your leash?
There it is. So we are. I have no idea how we are. I've got 5 minutes left. Any other questions? We can. That was fast, man. It's crazy.
So that software will learn basically what you're looking for and figure out what you're looking for and help you clean it up in the future? Is
Well,
that right?
so
Figure out voice.
every piece of audio is different. This will give me a ability to do a template sort of information. So if I'm shooting in the same location over a couple of days and I've got different actors, different microphone sources coming in, I could create a template that I know in this particular room I have got a 60 cycle hum that I'm going to have to remove. I can have that set up as a template that it can automatically remove it.
By taking room tone and then you could remove it?
What's
Or
that?
do you take a sample with like room tone and then you can
Yeah,
isolate it? Oh,
Yeah.
crazy.
Crazy stuff.
How much does this cost, this
I don't
program?
know. I have. It's in the $5,000 to $1,000 range.
Okay. And it plugs in with any video editing software?
Any video editor. So I know with Final Cut, it works as a plug-in within Final Cut.
Okay.
The other software, Premiere, it does the same thing.
Okay.
Media Composer, I'm sure it does the
Same thing.
So it's-
It,
No, go ahead.
I own an AV company, and so we get stuff wholesale. We're a sure dealer. So if there's ever a time that you decide that you're going to purchase some of the microphones that you saw, like we have the shotgun mic, we have like
Yeah.
all those kind of things, and you want to purchase that, please contact me because I get stuff wholesale. So I
Yeah,
can't
that's
buy
awesome.
it for you, but I would definitely, I'd be happy to work with you. We can just ship it directly to you and whatever. So
Absolutely.
Nice.
we can,
That's awesome.
since we get the stuff wholesale for our own company, then we would buy extra and then use it for our production
Sure.
side.
That's awesome.
That's an awesome resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So, quickly on ADR, so what are kind of your tips for that, for performing that?
So I've got 2 minutes. So.
Oh gosh.
That may be a question after this session, because that's a whole other process. I do ADR. Typically what I will do, alternate takes. I use a lot of alternate takes. We rarely are going to have that performer back in the studio to re-record their stuff. It's financially not feasible for a missions organization to do that. So I will use alternate takes to build whatever that full take needs to be. So if I have a piece where the room goes haywire, I've got a refrigerator that all of a sudden kicks on, something that I can't clean up within Isotope, I will look at other takes, and I'm hearing the microphone kick in and out. I will look at other takes and then replace that within Pro Tools, or give it to the team in Madrid to lay into Final Cut or whatever. But we can talk about that later.
That's where you have to go back into the studio and record something that got messed
Yes.
up. Okay. And they are like voiceovering themselves. That's fun.
Yeah. So those, it is really easy to do now within Pro Tools or Logic, whatever your audio editor is. It's really easy to do. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It can be done. It's done every day. So
Even though your thing was on audio, you had the best slide presentation visually. So I just wanted to say.
great. Leave it to the pastor.
No, look good.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, you're the pastor of this church here?
I'm one of them.
Oh, cool.
That's fine.
There's more than one.
What's that?
There's more than
It's a
one.
big church.
There's a few. Thanks, Michael. Thanks. Thanks.
Are you one too?
ChristianMemes.com.
Christian-
I'm a pastor, but not at this church.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you guys so much. This has been fun. So thanks. If you, I'm here all week. So if you got any questions, I'm happy to chat. And yeah, God bless you guys. Thanks.
God bless.